Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of Wednesday, May the 15th. My name is Ian Morrison. I'm the Electoral Area Director for Cowichan Lake South Scotts Falls, and I will be the chair of the meeting today. I'd like to first ask those with electronic devices, which I guess is just about everybody these days, to make sure that your volume is down or it's on mute or vibrate or something. And I would like to recognize that the CVRD is on the unceded territories of the Cowichan, Malahat, Subasat, Halalt, Penelakut, Stuminas, Liaxin, Paquichan, DT Dot, and Pachi Dot nations, whose people have walked gently here for thousands of years. Ms. Harrison, what have we got?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, and there are a couple of changes to be noted.
What would they be?
Item R1 to be deleted from the agenda, and that item is regarding a report from the Development Services Division regarding application number DVP 23B03 for 1578 Strathcona Heights Road, PID 029473039, and with the addition of 3 supplemental information items related to item R3, which is a report from the Development Services Division regarding application number RZ23A01, and that is for 2522-2528 Mill Bay Road, PID 032165315 and 032165307. And with that deletion and those additions, that the agenda as amended be approved.
Thank you, and I think those items that you spoke of have been all distributed in advance to directors, have they not? So do we have a mover for the agenda? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, the motion carries. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is adoption of minutes, and item M1, the recommendation before you is that the minutes of the Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of May 1st, 2024 be adopted.
Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, the motion carries. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item M2, recommendation before you is that the minutes of the Special Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of May 8th, 2024 be adopted.
Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Number 3, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Number 3 is business arising. We have none. And number 4 is public input period.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Just for the public's information, for those people in the audience and those at home, we are in the midst of amending, rewriting, making friendlier our instructions for the public input period. So I'm just going to, at this point, until we've got something a little more concrete, invite anyone who would like to come up and provide input on items on today's agenda. You've got 3 minutes, and the microphone is open. So if anyone would like to provide input on an item on the agenda, and you're not an applicant, now would be the time. Calling a second time. Third and final time. Ms. Harrison, what's next?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next item, delegations. We have none. Then correspondence. Item C1 is a grant and aid request, and the recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid electoral area I, Ubomee Creek, in the amount of $3,000 be provided to the Cowichan Green community to support the work the Green community does for the vulnerable people in the Cowichan region.
Do we have a mover? Moved by alternate Director Tatum, seconded by Director Wilson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, the motion carries. And for everybody's information, I'm just looking for my sheet of paper that says items approved at today's meeting or recommended to the board will go on Wednesday, May 22nd. Next item, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is C2, which is a grant and aid request, and the recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid Electoral Area I, Yubo Mead Creek, in the amount of $1,000 be provided to the Cowichan Valley Primary Care Society to support the startup costs of the Cowichan Valley Primary Care Society.
Alternate Director Tatum, do you want to move that? Seconded by Director Segal. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is information. Item IN1 are the Electoral Area G Saltaire Gulf Islands Advisory Planning Commission minutes of June 1st, 2023, and again for information.
They're there for information. Any discussion, comments? Seeing none. Ms. Harrison, we're on to reports now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item R1 was pulled at the approval of the agenda. Item R2 is a report from the Development Services Division regarding application number DVP 24H01 for 12272 Chandler Road, PID 026222205, and there is a recommendation.
Mr. Buchan, welcome.
Thank you. And if we could advance to the next slide. The purpose of this report is to present a development variance permit application for 12272 Chandler Road. The owners request that the CVRD board authorize an increase of the size of a separate suite from 60 square meters to 90.2 square meters for an existing building. Next slide, please. With respect to the existing building, the siting of the existing structure was approved through a previous variance in 2017. The variance permitted a reduced rear yard setback, as shown on the screen, to 4.1 meters. Next slide, please. The existing suite includes a storage area in the upper story that is accessed via exterior stairs and is not considered living space. Next slide, please. The owners propose to convert the upper story storage area into living space for the suite below. This will place them over the 60 square gross floor area limit for suites in Electoral Area H. Staff note that suite standards vary across the region, and a systemic review of suite standards can occur as part of the rezoning bylaw modernization project. Next slide, please. The board is being asked to consider the variance as requested. Other options include denial or requesting additional information. I'm here for questions, and the agent is in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buchan. I will go to directors. Are there any questions for staff at this point? Seeing none, I don't know whether we should ask if the applicant is in the room and would like to provide any comment, or whether we should go right to the director for the area. Is the applicant here? Yes? I'm fine. You're fine? Excellent. Then why don't I go to the director for the area?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to staff for their report. Read through it. It's interesting. I also tried to find some history about why Area H has a limitation of 60 meters square, and I wasn't able to get that successfully. And it just seems, looking at all the other regions or electoral areas, and thus the variety within it, that this seems to be quite comfortable to go ahead with option one as recommended. If I have a seconder, thank you.
Moved and seconded. Did you want to comment on that, or are you ready to proceed?
I would almost ready to proceed, but I guess staff had mentioned that this might launch a regional review, and I would welcome that regional review of to get some modernization of our secondary suite sizes. Thank you.
Yeah, like everybody could go to Area F at 95 square meters. Okay, did I say that? Seeing no hands, let's call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, the motion carries. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is item R3, which is a report from the Development Services Division regarding application number RZ23A01 for 2522 and 2528 Mill Bay Road, PID 032165315 and PID 032165307.
Welcome, Ms. DeBenna.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a rezoning application to allow for a 4-lot strata subdivision with a minimum parcel size of 700 square meters. I just wanted to point out that since this application was before the board in November, it was previously 1 lot, now it's been subdivided into 2 parcels. And that's the current subject property map. The one in the staff report is incorrect. So I apologize for that. Okay, so onward. So this application was presented to the board in November of 2023, and the board passed a resolution to forward the application to external agencies and First Nations for referrals. The staff report includes all received referral responses, including a recommendation from the Area A APC. Staff are recommending an OCP amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment be prepared and forwarded for first reading. The OCP amendment would include an amendment to Schedule U of the OCP to include the subject properties within DPA 9, Development Permit Area 9, for intensive residential development. That development permit area addresses form and character of dwellings on smaller lots and includes guidelines for parking, building orientation and massing, the relationship of buildings to the street, landscaping, pedestrian spaces and access, and other things. The zoning bylaw amendment would include a site-specific regulation to reduce the minimum parcel size for subdivision to 700 square meters for these 2 properties only. Staff are also recommending that development approval information in the form of a stormwater management plan and erosion and sediment control plan be submitted prior to second reading of the draft bylaws. The purpose of this request is to ensure that the proposed development, which would essentially double the permitted residential density on these properties, to ensure that that development is compatible with the site conditions, and then provide options for managing stormwater on site. In addition, staff are recommending a Section 219 covenant be registered to secure park community amenity contributions offered by the applicant for a financial contribution to the Mill Bay Road roadside pathway. And the board may wish to refer this potential amenity contribution to the Parks Advisory Commission. And I have 6 recommendations, wow. And the last one is to hold a public hearing. And that's it for me. I can take questions.
Excellent. Any questions for staff? Go to Director Nicholson first. She had her hand up.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get my head around why the APC was not in support of this. Is this because it started out most recently as a 1 lot and then it became 2 and now it's being proposed to be 4?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair to Director Nicholson. So my understanding, I did not attend the APC meeting, Manager Pressman did, is that they...
Hang on for just a second. We need somebody to turn something down somewhere.
Am I shouting? Is
No,
there something
you're
wrong?
not, and
Okay.
you're the right distance and everything. We just need... It's very tinny
hear
and
it.
loud.
Is there something on your neck, maybe some metal or something?
Turn your microphones off when someone else is speaking.
Maybe it's my name tag. Oh, that went away. Okay.
Good job, Chase.
Chase just looked at it and it was better. Oh,
Is it?
go ahead.
Okay. So my understanding from the recommendation to the board is that they were supportive of the existing zoning, which allows for the 2 lots. I think it was a minimum parcel size of 1675 square meters. And I don't know if Michelle has anything further to add to that, because I wasn't part of the discussion. I know they flagged a few things to consider, which I've mentioned in the staff report. I still feel like
Come
there's a
on
bit of
up,
an
Ms.
echo.
Pressman.
I don't know, maybe it's just me.
Through the chair to Director Nicholson, their concerns were noted in their recommendation. One of the major concerns was stormwater runoff, potentially leaving the site and impacting the surrounding area. They had concerns about additional traffic as well that this could generate, in particular with safety for pedestrians, with children in the area, and impacts on the nearby intersections.
Director Segal.
Yeah, I was at the APC meeting, so I can provide context. I think there was confusion for them in understanding. I think at that time, maybe the subdivision was submitted but not finalized, and so it was kind of this, it might be this, it might be that. And so something that I'm hoping we can get clarity for here from Ms. Dabina is currently with the subdivision of 2 lots, they're allowed to have a single-family dwelling and a detached suite, correct?
Through the chair to Director Segal, yeah, they can have a detached suite as long as both dwellings are connected to community water and community sewer.
And so that's 4 buildings, or the proposed, the report we have for today is for 4 buildings, right? So kind of either option is a similar result.
Right,
Or
so.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so their proposal is to have principal dwellings, single-family dwellings. I think we're calling them single-unit dwellings now, sorry, with a secondary suite, which is an attached suite. So it's within
Yeah.
the principal dwelling.
And is there a big difference in like site coverage between what's currently allowed, the subdivision, and this proposal?
To my recollection, there's no proposed parcel coverage. I could be incorrect, I'm not sure. Do you remember? I don't know. Anyway, I can tell you what the current R3 zone allows. It allows 30% parcel coverage, which is for buildings and structures, up to 35% for impervious surface. So that's like paving, essentially.
And so that's not being changed with this rezoning?
That's part of the reason why staff are recommending a stormwater drainage plan, to get an understanding of what's going on the lot and whether it makes sense to have an increased impervious surface, or if that's not going to work on in this location.
Right,
Yeah.
and we'd get that information before it says, right? Before second
Yeah.
reading?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Great, those are all my questions.
That's on purpose.
Director McClinton.
Thank you, Chair. My question was answered.
All right. I would ask if the applicant has anything that they would like to add. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. My name is Rachel Sansom. I'm here representing the owner of this Mill Bay property today. I did have a slideshow, but is it around? We don't really need it. The staff report was excellent and covered all the bases. So I just have a few brief notes, hopefully to add a little bit more information here. Again, this is a great example of a gentle infill development. We're using a property that has existing road access and existing services, so we're not having to extending roads and services to accommodate this. Parking is going to meet or exceed what the current CVRD bylaws require. We do have an additional 4 parking spaces included on the plan. We're, in addition to the proposed $15,000 to the roadside trail, because this is creating more than 3 lots, there's also a requirement under Local Government Act to provide 5% of the land value to a parks fund. Currently, we're estimating that to around $35,000, but that is based on the assessment at the time of approval. So that number is not 100%, but it's close, order of magnitude. So, more benefit to the community there. I know that throughout this process, there have been questions about why we're doing this as a bare land strata and not for fee simple lots. First part was really a question of geometry as to what fit on this site as far as creating good building envelopes. A bare land strata is a little different than a building strata in that each homeowner owns and maintains their own home. They can have their own house insurance, but they take care of the common assets together. In this case, that would be the common access road. One of the benefits of this common access road is there only one driveway going out onto Mill Bay Road, so it's a lot safer for pedestrians there. And also, all four owners are going to be responsible for the maintenance of this road as well as the storm drainage facilities there. So as part of the stormwater management plan, oh, look, there it is. Essentially, we can't change the stormwater regimen from what is there today. So we can't increase the runoff off this site. So you do that through infiltration chambers, through detention, slow release, and ongoing maintenance. And what we can do is you can register covenants on the strata that make sure that there's ongoing maintenance to that common road, the catch basins, and any oil grit separators, so that we ensure that there's no negative impacts to the community from runoff from this. These are relatively large lots. I know they seem small compared to what's around them, but as far as an urban lot, these are quite large, and there'll be a really good opportunity to manage the storm drainage on those individual properties as well. Again, it's a nice site. It's not too steeply graded. It's quite gentle. Although it won't impact views, it doesn't require a lot of shaping and grading and blasting, which is rare these days. And we also provide an ability to save the existing trees that might be there outside of the building envelopes. One other neat detail about this is we've had interest from, I believe it's the Mill Bay Malahat Historical Society. They have an interest in taking some of the windows out of the existing home. So the developers made arrangements for them to kind of maintain some of that historical flavor. The house is no longer able to be salvaged, but it's kind of nice to think that parts of that will be able to be distributed back to the community. So we're here for your questions if you have any. Thank you so much.
Turn to committee. Any questions for the applicant? Director Segal.
Ms. Sansom, don't run away. I noticed in the referral comments, Mill Bay Water District didn't have a chance to respond, but I'm wondering if you've had any communications with Mill Bay Water District in terms of getting on their community water.
We understand that the site is fully serviced by Mill Bay Water and Sewer, that it's possible there.
And that it's okay going from the one home to 4.
That is my understanding. There's also a fire hydrant right adjacent to the lot as well, so we're covered for fire protection, which is nice.
Would you like to propose a resolution?
I'll move the recommendations.
Ms. Harrison, second all around. Ms. Harrison, would you read the resolution, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that an official community plan amendment bylaw for application number RZ23A01 for 2522-2528 Mill Bay Road, PID 032165315 and 032165307 be prepared and forwarded to the board for consideration of first reading. Number 2, that a zoning bylaw amendment bylaw, for application number RZ23A01 for 2522 and 2528 Mill Bay Road, PID 032165315 and 032165307 be prepared and forwarded to the board for consideration of first reading. Number 3, that prior to consideration of second reading of the amendment bylaws for application number RZ23A01 for 2522 and 2528 Mill Bay Road, the following be completed. A, submission of a stormwater management plan providing an analysis of the pre-development and post-development natural hydrological conditions, including peak flows and recommendations on low-impact development features and design of on-site drainage works. Number B, submission of an erosion and sediment control plan for proposed development of on-site stormwater drainage. And Number 4, that prior to adoption of the amendment bylaws, a Section 219 covenant be registered on the property to ensure installation and maintenance of on-site drainage infrastructure and erosion and sediment control measures. Number 5, that prior to adoption of amendment bylaws, a Section 219 covenant be registered to secure park community amenity contributions. And number 6, that a public hearing be scheduled for application number RZ 23801 for 2522-2528 Mill Bay Road, PID 032165315 and 032165307.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Director Segal.
So I have one more process question through to staff. Just when that stormwater plan and et cetera and the covenant are complete, does that come as a new report to EASC, or will that just be like an information item somewhere?
Ms. DeBenna.
Michelle? What are your thoughts? I mean, I know you love to read my long, long reports, but
Let me throw one out there, see if Ms. Pressman agrees. That since it is in the hands of the board, we've given it first reading, that I would suggest that a report to the board when second reading is considered be provided at a board meeting. Does that make sense to you?
That was what I was going to suggest, and it also might result in some potential recommendations to some changes to the bylaw as well, with some potential restrictions on parcel coverage or things like that.
Great, I just don't want to miss that. Can I?
Yeah, and I think it would natural if the report were to come and we had bylaws for second reading and there was additional concerns and the like, that it could certainly be referred back to electoral area services for further consideration. Director Martman.
Just a question on one of the items that has been moved, and that's around the public hearing. Does Bill 44 come into play on this?
Ms. DeBenna.
through the chair to Director Martman, you just had to ask that question, didn't you? So my understanding is, since there is an OCP amendment involved here, yeah, because the property needs to be included in the development permit areas, that requires amending the OCP, that we would need to hold a public hearing.
Director Segal.
Okay, so speaking to the motion now. I had to read this one a number of times and recognize that, yeah, it's taken a lot of contemplation, just seeing the APC response and some of the internal referral feedback. There's some conflicting opinions. You know, it does require an OCP amendment, which makes me kind of glad that there will be a public hearing so we can really get a fulsome idea of what the public thinks. But this also does meet the draft MOCP, so we're in this kind of like, you know, awkward situation between two big guiding policy documents, which has made it challenging for me to make a decision. But I do fundamentally believe in, yeah, gentle infill developments and creating varied communities, providing various levels of housing to create a complete community that's within servicing and transit, et cetera. So I look forward to getting back these important pieces of information around stormwater and erosion and the Mill Bay Road Trail. I mean, that's exciting. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions? I'm just going to briefly add that when the original OCP was done in the South Cowichan, and it was then that I thought that Mill Bay was going to start the process of gentle infilling. But as it turned out, we didn't have a housing crisis then, and the single-family home was still considered king for most of Mill Bay, and I think this just might be one of those first gentle infills that will change the shape of the community, but hopefully in a positive way. So With that, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, the motion carries. And again, that'll be going to our 22nd of May meeting. Next item is Harrison.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. The next item, R4, is a report from the Community Planning Division regarding Town of Lake Cowichan rezoning application Z 2023-03 referral.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair.
Have we met before?
Once.
Oh, better introduce yourself again.
Hello, I'm Laura Lajeunesse. I'm a new planner here, working in the Community Planning Division with Lauren and Mike.
Welcome.
Thank you. Today, I'll be presenting a referral request regarding the Town of Lake Cowichan's rezoning application. Next slide, thank you.
Can I get you to just slide in front of the computer so everyone can see your face?
Can you
Perfect.
hear me? Am I shouting?
Perfect.
It's all good?
It's all good.
Okay. The CVRD has received a referral request from the town who are in receipt of a rezoning application. The rezoning application is for 2 parcels, as you can see outlined in black, within the town's boundary, which appears in red. They share a boundary with CVRD's Electoral Area F. The subject properties abut the Cowichan Valley Highway to the north, Cowichan Lake Road to the south, residential properties within the town to the west and to the south, as well as 2 residential properties to the east within Electoral Area F. Next slide. Thank you. The town's applicant is proposing to rezone these parcels into a comprehensive development zone with 332 residential dwelling units. The proposed zone splits the parcels into 3 sub-areas. Area 1, the applicant is proposing a low to medium density with housing types such as duplexes, townhomes, and senior-oriented patio homes. Area 2, a medium to high density with housing options such as townhomes and apartment buildings. Area 3, neighborhood park, which would be municipal park dedication. Next slide, please. The 2 CVRD parcels to the east are zoned R2 Suburban Residential 2 within Electoral Area F zoning bylaw. The R2 zone permits 1 single-family dwelling, a detached suite, and accessory buildings. Next slide, please. Thank you. The CVRD parcels are also designated country residential within the local area plan, which supports medium density. Next slide. Thank you. The town's applicant is proposing the lowest density of the development within the proposed Area 1, as well as proposing building heights on the eastern portion of the site to be limited in order to provide a more sensitive transition between the proposed development and the existing CVRD residential parcels. Staff have connected the town with CVRD Parks and CVRD Transit divisions to request comment on this referral. Staff do not anticipate negative impacts to the CVRD. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that the board advise the Town of Lake Cowichan that the CVRD's interests are unaffected by the Town of Lake Cowichan's referred zoning application.
Thank you. Any questions for staff on this item? Seeing none. Could we have someone move the recommendation? Director Segal, seconded by Director McClinton. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. Thank you very much. R5. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Item R5 is a report from Inspections and Enforcement Division regarding the 2024 BC Plumbing Code update and non-potable water systems, and this is for information.
Mr. Brisky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have this report for you and the committee here. I don't have a presentation. I do have Mr. Lawrence from Environmental Services here to help answer any questions that the committee may have. But I'm here for questions as well. And this is a fairly new thing, so I'm kind of diving into it myself. But I imagine there's some questions. I'm sure some folks are eager to hear about this, so I'm happy to take whatever you have.
You sure? Director Martman.
Oh, thank you. This is finally coming our way, well, through the plumbing code. So the first, the softball one first.
You only get two.
Okay, rain barrels are excluded. Help me understand that.
I noticed that myself, Director Martman, and I'm not entirely sure why that has been excluded, but I think in the context of what the code is trying to provide is almost like a pressurized rough plumbing system that can be used to distribute water to household appliances and things like that, whereas, you know, a rain garden that you might pick up at the hardware store or something like that might be, you know, coming from your roof gutter. It's probably not something that's going to incorporate a number of these other features that may be required, and it might be just most suitable for a small vegetable or flower garden.
Follow up?
So, thank you for that. I was curious. And the second question is about how do we encourage, how does the CVRD, how does the board encourage residents to take this up and start perhaps thinking ahead about how they should look after water and manage rainwater in the future? Do you see programs coming out of this if in the next while, or coming forward with programs that could be possible?
Mr. Brisky, what do you got? Mr. Lawrence, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to Director Martman. It was identified in a previous staff report in March that within the Environmental Services work plan that we will be exploring the potential incentive rebate programs for water conservation measures, and so that would include rainwater harvesting systems within that work plan item.
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm just looking at a timing for that, because we're coming into summer. Do you think we'll have something in place for catching the rain when it comes back in the fall? Hopefully it comes back in the fall.
So thank you. Through the chair to Director Martman, it is an annual work plan item for this year, so for 2024, and so the hope is to move forward with that when we have the capacity to do that and gather the information through the folks that we're working with through this dry season that can help inform that program for within this 1 year time frame that we're working towards.
Ms. Pressman, are you lurking with something to add?
I just had one more comment. Another thing that's noted in the report is some of the other tools we'll be looking at are when we're doing our current bylaw reviews in the comprehensive zoning bylaw, potential expansions or changes to development permit areas, as well as works and servicing bylaw. So those are all bylaws that we'll be looking at how we could implement further water conservation and use.
We're looking to change behaviors and to do it quickly. Director Segal, did I have you next? No? Director Nicholson.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a super important topic. I just actually got a email from Todd Etherington about the Dogwood water system, which is the only system I have in the Area E, and it's in the Cook Island watershed, and they're already running out of water. So it's a huge issue, and I think RDN has done a lot of good work on rainwater harvesting best practices. They have a guidebook. It would be really important, I think, for us to have information on our website and available to point people to this, because yeah, it's not cheap, but it's really important to do if you have water issues.
Alternate Director Tatum.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh,
Now I've got out.
F4.
Okay. I'm wondering about these systems. Are these designed to be both community-wide systems and individual homeowner systems, or is there any anything you've gathered or are gathering relative to that kind of situation?
Mr. Brisky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the application of the plumbing code, it is specific to a subject building. So in this case, this could be a single dwelling, but, you know, there's nothing that wouldn't suggest that it couldn't be maybe a 4-unit building or something like that as well. Of course, you know, when you share a system like this with other owners, you know, that can come with complications for sure. But primarily this would be focused towards single individual dwellings, which may include an attached secondary suite.
Any other questions for staff? This is great welcome news. Appreciate you coming and presenting today. And this is for information, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think that takes us to our friends in solid waste, R6. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Item R6 is a report from the Recycling and Waste Management Division regarding 3-stream curbside collection, additional trucking requirements, and there is a 2-point recommendation.
Hello, is that working? Hi, everybody. Does anybody want a summary of the report? Or are we going to go straight to questions?
I saw somebody nodding, so how about you give us a quick version of it? Yes?
Awesome. So the recommendation is that the board amend the 2024 budget by increasing MFA spending short-term by $397,000 and increasing capital expense by $397,000. The purpose of the report is to amend the 2024 budget, function 515, to add a 7th curbside collection truck to support the 3-stream curbside collection service and provide an update about the project. To be clear, we are not asking for more funding, as that was approved last year, but rather the go-ahead to order a 7th truck. Just for a little bit of background, staff worked with consultants Morrison Hirschfield last year to determine a high-level cost of the service and the trucking needs, and determined that we needed 5 trucks and 6 as a backup. As staff began planning for the service, we reviewed the important service factors such as eligibility, rerouting, and trucking needs, and many more things. First thing to consider is the payload, or the volume and space limitations in our trucks. During the service review, staff determined that the consultants did not account for the trucks needing to return to Bings Creek to tip their loads twice a day due to volume constraints throughout the collection day. This additional travel time pushes our trucking needs to require an additional truck to provide the service to our current level of households. Increase eligible dwellings. As mentioned previously, staff are reviewing service areas, including places that we do not currently provide service to. During this process, staff have found pockets of eligible dwellings around the region that could be added to the service, which increases our trucking needs. We are continuing to work closely with Land Use Services to ensure that we are apprised of any future development in the coming years as well, because that also requires more trucking. Just some risks to note as well. If we do not opt for a 7th truck, we could attempt to rely on our current aging fleet, which are far beyond their end of life by a number of years. This increases the potential of not being able to deliver the service due to breakdowns and may impact utility fees as well due to high costs associated with the repairs. Another option would be continuing to spread the service to include Saturday collection to manage workload and trucking demands. However, this is not ideal for customer service, as we've told residents that this is a temporary measure and last resort to maintain service levels that should only be reserved for emergencies. Lastly, just looking at the cost considerations, given that cost was associated as the most prominent concern with the service, it is important to note that the addition of a 7th truck will leave us in the utility-free range that was consulted on last year. This is due to cost-saving body modifications for the trucks on order with the support of the Growing Community Fund grant. As such, if a 7th truck is ordered, utility fees will be reduced by an estimated $23.50 per household instead of the $30 that was anticipated with the Growing Community Funds. It is important to note that utility fees are not yet determined due to several procurement factors and upcoming changes with Recycle BC's incentive structure. That is all I have. Questions?
Director Wilson?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for that. One of the things I perhaps I didn't read the report properly first time. I'm glad there's no extra money required here. I'm a little bit concerned that the consultants didn't factor in these return trips. That's a huge omission. Can we get a refund from them?
Mr. Stevens?
No, no.
I wouldn't say so through the chair to
Okay,
address
all right,
Wilson,
but
no.
it is something, all levity aside, that's something which to me is a bit off. Pass that on, they're probably watching this anyway. And the transfer station is at Bings Creek, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a fair trip, let's say, from the farthest reaches of Mill Bay.
Yeah.
All the way to Bings Creek and all the way back again. So,
The,
big
sorry
one.
to interrupt,
Big one.
an average travel time is about 40 minutes, and
Yeah.
that can vary between different areas,
Sure.
such as Area H or Malahat, what have
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, point of order, Mill Bay is hardly the farthest reaches of CBRD.
We could, a few of us get in on that one. Any other questions for staff? Alternate Director Tatum.
You mentioned that the identification of other eligible homeowners. What are those homeowners currently doing?
Thank you. Through the chair to alternate director Tatum. Currently, they have private services, which can vary from opt-in, or they have just garbage or cardboard or something like that. So we want to make sure that we prioritize diversion for our region by providing the highest level of service options, hence our investigation into these alternate areas.
Director Acton.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to staff. I read this report and I guess I'm trying to understand the financial part because, you did say it doesn't affect the budget. That's this year, but this will become an ongoing cost that we're adding for 5 years, I think the loan was. And we just spent the morning talking about, like, no offense to yourself, to staff presenting, but what I would much rather see here is we have to change our plan, but how does it look if we don't add more money to it? Does it mean we have, take it out of the budget from somewhere else or something, some service changes? Because I really don't, I'm gonna have to vote against this in the respect of the region cannot keep taking these huge hits. And this service is, if we had a matrix of how much it's been increasing, this is where the biggest growth is happening, and it's by the millions. And it really, and I know government, I 100% believe, this is something that we can do well, but, and I know we're a big region, but people cannot sustain this. So do we look at what kind of service we're charging for? I know we have talked in the past about the gold-plated and then just introducing it. And so maybe we need to step back and say, maybe we're not going to just go full force because this is becoming bigger than we anticipated. It's costing more than we anticipated. And so anyway, I don't know if other people share that concern with me, but I would like to see some different options and perhaps, anyway, that's my comments for now. I don't know if there's a lot of questions in there, but I would like to see an alternative to service to cover the costs.
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. So through our growing community funds, we're awarded some funds to reduce the overall cost of the curbside collection program. So that reduced our cost by, I can't remember, but so it was $30 per household that it dropped the cost by. So we're just adding back in $7.50 to that cost. to bring on this seventh truck. So the curbside collection program, it has already been set. The program's set in place. We're just simply moving forward with that. Everything's been approved as it was last year. So we're not adding or changing anything. We're just potentially adding some homes, which is great. Overall reduction to landfill. Some new homes that weren't anticipated. And obviously the shortfall with the Morrison Hursfield report. Unfortunately, we didn't have full access to that report for our staff to analyze the data, to get an accurate sense of how they calculated. Once our staff were able to look at that and calculate it, that's when we identified that we needed the additional support. So, and as Ms. Burchard also said, we looked at several options, such as, continuing on with 6-day collection, which isn't favorable because we lose our ability to service the community in an emergency situation. Using the old trucks, which also isn't favorable because we all know these trucks are far beyond their usable service life. So it doesn't make sense to do that. So it does make sense to move forward with this additional truck. Not having this additional truck puts us in a situation where we're going to be pushing the 6 trucks that we do have very hard, not leaving any room for regular maintenance, and the potential for serious service disruptions if trucks do go down.
Thank you, Director McClinton.
Thank you, Chair. I thought maybe stay there. I think I have some just technical questions that I'm confused on now. So I just want to double check, clarify, MFA is short-term borrowing, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you. How many trucks did we order?
So we originally ordered 3 trucks to replace the existing trucks we had. We added an additional 3 trucks. So we have 4 trucks coming at the end of this year. So one of them was the original order, and then we added 3 more trucks. So those trucks, we modified the trucks are in production right now. We were able to make some modifications to the trucks going from right-hand collection to left-hand collection, modified the bodies, so the bodies will look a little bit different than the bodies we have right now, but the way we collect will be exactly the same. So we're able to reduce our costs by about $20,000 per truck.
No, yeah, follow up if I may.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for clarity on like brand new trucks we modified, and old trucks. Like, what's the total fleet number when they're all arrived?
So the fleet number, the intended fleet number is going to be 7 trucks. The 2 trucks that we currently have in place will be phased out, the 2 old trucks. Once the program is up and running and we have a full understanding of the demands and what our needs are, the trucks are not completely dead, so it would make sense to hang on to those trucks in emergency situations. But I wouldn't recommend using them for more than extreme emergency situations because they are old, they are tired, and they are becoming very costly. Between, I think it was 45 and 128,000 annually to keep these things on the roads.
Yeah. Comment if I may. Yeah.
Well, we don't have a resolution on the
sorry,
floor, so can we get a resolution on the floor? It's fairly straightforward. Moved by Director Segal, seconded by. Moved and seconded. Go ahead, Director McClinton.
I'm in support of my colleague, Director Acton. I just think this is something that should be brought forward in the next budget. I think we need it, but we've got backup trucks that are there, and I mean, we've come out of 2 big increases, and I know it's been a tough issue for some of the folks in the south region. So I won't be supporting the motion.
Director Acton.
Thank you. So I did hear that, all these items have been approved already in the past, but when we were presented with information that maybe wasn't completely accurate, we should be able to review our decisions and our direction. So unless I'm missing something, I really feel like this is a big ticket item that we were already told we were going to be. We've already had a debate over the 4 extra trucks and the level of service. So then adding another almost $400,000 to, and possibly, now I'm even confused, is this only electoral areas, this extra cost? Yes. And so I think we need to take a look at it and not approve budgets. This is how we end up with these like, the community can't handle any more, and it's no disrespect to staff, but the community cannot handle this kind of growth in our budgets year over year. It's not sustainable, and these big numbers add to it, and I think should be able to get a little creative.
Thank you, Director Acton. I'm going to jump in just before you, Director Wilson. Go ahead, Director Wilson. I'll follow up.
Yeah, I'm just reading back through again there. With the addition, let's assume that it was approved. Does the report say anything about extra staff that might be needed here, or is there no extra staff required?
Thank you, Director Wilson, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, there's going to be additional staff required to operate the truck, but with the volume, if we don't have the additional truck, if we were to double shift the trucks, you're going to need extra staff. As the community expands, we're going to need extra drivers or extra trucks. So those are things that, our staff work hard on to mitigate and ensure that we're maximizing capacity of their vehicles, maximizing the productivity of our trucks. So, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be need for additional staff, but it may not be a need for additional full-time staff. We'll use casual staff. Once we have the programs up and running, we'll have a very clear indication of what our staffing levels will be, and then we'll be able to present to the board exactly what we're going to need going forward.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here because I'm a little unsure as to the confusion. I think the staff report was very well written. There was a miscalculation in one of the reports that came forward. We're launching a 3-stream service that I think our staff are really good at delivering the curbside program. It's the calculation that we need the additional new truck is annoying, but this isn't increasing requisition. This isn't adding an additional burden. As a matter of fact, the way I understand the report is the addition of this extra truck is likely to save us money, save wear and tear on the trucks that we have and that we have ordered, and is going to ensure a greater likelihood of a successful rollout of this new program. So there isn't a tax requisition impact. The overall impact of the grant that we've applied to this is reducing the curbside utility fee. So the report was very clear and was well written, and on a monetary perspective, we've already authorized borrowing, and this shouldn't be that challenging a leap to make when our staff come to us and say, yep, there was a miscalculation in the trip times and the likes, and this is the most efficient and effective way to move forward. So I appreciate the report. I read it a couple of times. It was very clear, and thank you for the information you brought to us. Director Martman.
Thank you, and I think I see or understand both sides of this equation, because I would just revisit where we were talking about curbside collection, 3-stream, and going with, I think someone mentioned the Gucci level with including glass. So that decision was made and passed, and then based on that, how are you going to operationalize that? But then came some grants, and that changed a bit of the costing of it, and so some grants were, I believe, for totes and went to totes, and then we have the Community Works Growing Community Fund, and that also helped offset things. And so I think we embraced those grants when they came about, thinking, okay, that's helping offset the cost to the residents. Now we're facing some bad news. So I see it sort of playing out. We're probably still ahead because of the grants. And so from my perspective, yeah, I think Director Atkins's right. There's a bit of a moving target here on what we know and decisions we have to make on what we know at the time. And I think it's regretful we didn't have that information before. But we're still, from my perspective, within, as much as I didn't want the Gucci, we're still within that frame of what they were predicting to be the cost. So we're going to deliver that cost of to the residents with what was promised, and hopefully nothing else changes that. So now it's about efficiency, and I think that's the key that's sort of lending me to think that we should go for this, because the efficiency piece for me is going to be huge to have my community buy in. It's got to work, and it's got to work that first year, particularly to get that comfort and to have people going like, yeah, this is here, it's reliable, it's on time, and we're not seeing a big bump up the year after in cost. So I'd be voting in favor of this. Thanks.
So I've got two staff want to add to this. I'm ready to call the question here. So I think, Ms. Bowen, could you please come and provide us with information to help us make our decision, and I'll go to Mr. Mooney afterwards.
Through the chair. So Director Martman did bring that up. So when we brought it to the budget, this truck was, or not this, there was debt already put in the budget for the 3 vehicles. So that debt is still in the budget. So then, after all the budget and everything, we got money with the growing communities, and the decisions were made that the growing communities would take money and be used for the trucks. So that debt was already included as part of that first number. So now this is just replacing, instead of these 3 trucks, we're just doing 1 truck. So there's going to be a bit of a cost savings on the original amount. So we're just moving monies around. And it's all to do with grant funding that we got with the Growing Communities Fund. So they were able now to buy another vehicle that they need. And right now they can buy it and get the savings with the other ones that they're already in the process of buying right now. So if we wait, we may not get that same savings with the vehicle if we wait a year.
Mr. Mooney, do you have something new to add?
Yes, thank you. Just in great debate and conversation around the table. The thing that I was thinking about, though, is I think staff made a good point that if the truck isn't ordered, there's certain options to lower the service level to still deliver. With that comes risk, and risk, the consequences, or perhaps unintended consequences of that risk, could mean that the budget actually goes up. So I just wanted to reflect that there may be a situation in not advancing the 7th truck could actually the unintended consequence could be an increase in the budget.
Director McClinton to close.
I mean, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this so I can thank you, Chair. What is the consequences of delaying this until we get to next budget? Is there a consequence of delaying till then? That's when I feel like this is appropriate to.
So, thank you,
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Director McClinton, through you, Mr. Chair. So the consequence of waiting until this next budget is going to be waiting an entire year. So that means we're going to be, the new truck will be delayed another year. So if we wait till 2025 budget to present this to you, we're going to be already mid-season, so we won't be seeing that truck until 2026, early 2027. And as Mr. Mooney just pointed out, the unexpected consequence of this is additional repairs to old trucks that are far beyond their reasonable life expectation, and the residual value on those old trucks, once they're done, we just park them. So we could be throwing in $130,000, $150,000 per truck. So we could be looking at $250,000, $300,000 to keep 2 trucks on the road with 0 residual value. Whereas if we add the 7th truck now, we're going to have that truck for the next 7 years, which will bring down the overall operating cost of all the trucks, because it means we're going to be able to ensure that it's going in for maintenance, regular maintenance. The trucks aren't working, 12 hours a day going as hard as they can all day long, which, as everybody knows, you run a vehicle like that, you're gonna run it into the ground quickly. And sorry, one other thing I'd like to point out, just as a reminder too, the Growing Communities Funds was about 1.5 million, so it reduced our overall original budget, reduced it by 1.5 million. And we're adding back into that is 397,000.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you.
I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? One opposed, motion carries. 5-minute break. Director Acton, we're coming back into session.
Okay, I'm here.
Welcome back, everyone. I think that takes us to number 9, UB1, the file that keeps on giving. And which of our staff is going to take that one? Ms. Wright, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. So I'm here on behalf of Mr. Tippett, who could not be here this afternoon. So I'm just going to give a brief, I don't have a presentation, but I am just going to give a brief outline to remind everyone. So this is in terms of draft bylaw number 4571. So this is, the recommendations include deleting headings H and I of the draft bylaw, which will prohibit, which currently are written to prohibit detached suites on ALR parcels. And in Area A and in parcels within the ALR and Area C that are also within the boundaries of the Coxsila watershed. To also recommend referrals of the bylaw to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, and it's to request that a public hearing not be held, but notice be provided. So I'm here to answer any questions, if there are any.
Director Segal.
I'd move the recommendation.
And it's been seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? 2 opposed, motion carries. And that'll go back to the board on the 22nd. Ms. Harrison, where does that take us to?
Thank you, Chair Morrison. New business, we have none, so then we move to question period.
Question period. Anybody want to ask me a question? No questions. Next, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Then there is a motion to go into closed session. So the motion before you is that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with Community Charter, Part 4, Division 3, Section 90, subsection 1E, land acquisition.
Been moved. Do we have a seconder? You moved it. She's trying to be very efficient. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we need to go to a new login?
Yes, we do, Chair Morrison.
All right.